Greetings, all you psychically blended symbiont changelings out there, and welcome to Undeclared Bajor. Really focus in on that demographic of people.
Yeah, it's a very, it's niche, but it's our niche.
Right. This is Undeclared Bajor, a Star Trek Deep Space Nine rewatch. My name is Fletcher. About to say hello is Data.
What up?
Today, we're going to recap, discuss, and rate Season 3, Episode 25, Facets. Alternate title, The Daxificent 7.
Huh, but aren't there like 8?
Yeah.
Or, well, okay. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It's fine. I thought that you might come up with, because apparently the genesis of the story is that Ira Steve Bear's like, I want to do a version of the 1976 made-for-television movie Sybil. And I was like, I don't know how you do a play on Sybil, starring Sally Field.
I know nothing about this movie, so...
It is a movie where Sally Field plays a woman who has, like, multiple personalities. It is a dark, psychological something or other.
Huh. Well, does she transmit her personalities into her friends?
No, so I guess in the movie she has, like, 13 distinct personalities, and I guess, like, Sally Field plays all these different things. And, so they had to go pretty far from this because... At first they're like, okay, but why is this happening to Dax? And in the movie, it was like this dark psychological trauma from her past that caused her multiple personality disorder. And they were like, well, wait, Dax already has a dark psychological trauma in her past that we did this season.
Right.
I don't think we can do another one of those. That would be weird. And so they came up with the ritual, but originally the ritual just like had Jadzia becoming these other hosts. And then they're like, well, but then the episode would just be all Terry Farrell and no one else would be doing anything. So finally they cracked let's have everybody become this thingy.
I think it would still be pretty interesting if Terry Farrell did all of it, and it would make a lot more sense.
What, are you saying it didn't make sense?
There are some elements of this story that I think might not stand up to scrutiny, but we'll get to there. Also, there's so many multiple personality stories out there. I have a hard time seeing how, like, this exact one can be zeroed in on as the focus of this episode. I guess he just watched the movie and got the idea, is what he's basically saying.
That's how he does everything.
Right?
I watched a movie this week. We should do it.
That does seem to be an Ira Stephen Bear MO.
Yep.
He's like, oh my gosh, I saw this great movie. Okay, title review. So, my note on title is, are Dax episode titles just especially bad?
I thought that this one made sense, at least.
You think so?
Like, they're facets of her.
Sure.
I buy it.
Okay. We'll see in a few weeks or months if you can remember that this episode is Facets. I had to go back and Google the title of the Equilibrium episode, because I was like, what was that episode called? And I was a total blank on that.
I believe that, yeah.
So yeah, we'll see. But our discussion will contain full spoilers for the series up through this episode. However, we will try to keep spoilers for later in the series to an appropriate minimum. We won't reveal anything too big, like the Sharknado episode.
Solid episode.
Yeah. I mean, spoilers, but...
I mean, space Sharknado, let's get it right, but...
I mean, I thought it was actually pretty well done how they explained a Sharknado happening in outer space.
Well, and they were just so far ahead of their time, to be honest.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, Ira Stephen Bear should be complaining that they didn't get recognition for the Sharknado episode.
Honestly, he probably is. Like, we just haven't gotten there yet, so you don't know.
This episode originally aired June 12th, 1995. So we had a few weeks of a break. The last one was like May 22nd. It was written by Renee Echevarria, directed by Cliff Bowl.
Cliff Bowl.
In
fact, I believe, let me double check. I believe it says this is the last episode directed by Cliff Bowl.
Oh. Did he go over to Voyager or?
Of this series. So I guess maybe he did. Let's see what his page says about what he did. He does several episodes of Voyager after this, starting with season 2, which this would be about the right timing for that. So
yeah.
Oh man, he did Tuvix.
Oh man, he did Curzotto and Tuvix.
Yeah, he's just stealing from himself now. That's really what this episode. It's like not even Curzotto. It's like the original Tuvix. I didn't know Tuvix was season 2. I thought it was later than that.
It does feel like a later season type of premise, but just for a sci-fi show in general, it feels like a what else we got.
That's what I was just about to say. Like, I guess they started running out of ideas early on Voyager.
Okay, but recap of this episode. So Nog is in a runabout, engaged in some kind of exciting escape from pursuing Cardassians. So you're like, oh my gosh, what has Nog gotten himself into? He's being chased by Cardassians. As soon as he's able to break away and go to warp, he hears a tap on the runabout window and looks up to see Jake Sisko standing outside.
Just out in space.
While he's at warp.
As you do.
He's like just waving at him. Nog ends program and his chair disappears, so rookie mistake there.
Mm-hmm.
And we find out that he's studying for an entrance exam to a Starfleet Academy prep program or something. I'm not quite clear on exactly what's going on here. So
I'm pretty sure you got that right. It's like a prep program, but also if he doesn't get into this, he will never get into the Academy and his dream will be over forever. So that's a very, wow. So only... once again, they're like, getting into the Academy is super hard, and I feel like it cannot be that hard that you have to get into the super exclusive prep program or you're not going to make it. I
don't know. Maybe it's because he's not a Federation citizen, and I don't know. They just kind of like mumble through it really fast. Sure. Basically they wanted a plot device where if Nog passes, he's still not guaranteed to get into Starfleet, but if he fails, that's it for him.
Yeah, no, that's pretty much what happened.
That's what's going on here. But as Jake and Nog talk, they pass by Quark, who is still against Nog's goal of joining Starfleet, as there is no profit in it. So he offers Jake and Nog a job writing porno programs for the holosuite.
I did not remember that until it happened, and then I was like, wow, yeah, the two teenage kids, you're just like, look, write me some porn, I'll front you the money. And I'm just like, wow, really? All right then. That's what you went for.
I bet some teenage boys could write some pretty fun porn.
Okay, no, that's fair.
Especially Nog. He's a little bit of a pervert. And Jake has all the experience with the Dabo girls and stuff. So
that's true. The story would definitely be about Dabo girls.
Yeah. So we cut to Bashir and Odo, who stroll down the corridors, or wherever the conference room is, wondering about a mysterious meeting called by Dax of all senior officers, plus Quark and Lita.
Yeah, as you do.
Yeah. Apparently, Dax and Lita became super good friends at some point.
Yeah, there's a note in here about, they started working on this, and then they realized, oh, wait, Dax has, 3 female former hosts, and we only have 1 female character to use, which was Kira. And then they were like, hey, let's get Keiko back in here, since she's the only other recurring female character on the show. But Rosalind Chow was unavailable.
Aww.
So they're like, okay, I guess Dax and Lita made friends. And then there's a note from Ira Stephen Bear. It didn't make any sense. We paid lip service to this relationship, but it never really paid off. It was just one of those things. Sometimes you got to shoehorn ideas into an episode to keep it going.
Yeah, I think just Odo's like, oh, they have been spending a lot of time together. Just trust me.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. It's also, we can't find Michael Eddington, so I guess it's got to be Lita.
Well, we're not going to invite Michael Eddington to take part in the ritual. Nobody likes that guy.
I don't know. Apparently he's super good friends with Odo, at least, so I just assume he's super best friends with everybody, and we just haven't seen it.
He's always there making friends. That was the first thing he said when he showed up. It was, I'm here to make friends.
Yep, exactly. That's his core personality trait, making friends. But so when they get to the conference room, Dax stands up and explains, so I brought you all guys here because you guys are all the main characters. I mean, my best friends. And I want you to participate in my Jantara. And then Dax, with the assistance of Lita, who is apparently a huge sociology nerd and knows all about Trill culture, explains that a Guardian, remember those guys from Equilibrium,
Yep.
is going to come and somehow suck the memories and personalities of Dax's previous hosts out of the symbiont and put them in the brains of the other people. How does that work or make sense? Don't worry about it.
I do like that they gave Lita these lines, which make no sense for Lita to have, but that they justify it by like, oh yeah, knowing all about different cultures is important in my line of work. But it was just like, we needed this moment to establish that Lita and Dax might be friends, because the one scene that we've had with Lita before made her seem like a complete moron.
Yeah.
So it was like, no, we need to make her not an idiot so that you could believe Dax would be friends with her.
She was just using the tried and true seduction technique of, oh, doctor, I have a cough.
Put boobs in your face.
Yep.
I also
that one tends to work.
No, yeah, totally. This ritual, after I read it in the name in the wiki, I was like, that is not how I ever would have imagined that being spelled.
Yeah, I had to put on the subtitles so I could see how that was spelled. I was like, oh, that's interesting.
Those are choices that were made.
But also the subject of Duran Dax, the crazy previous host from the episode Equilibrium, who was played by that mask magician guy, is brought up. Cisco has agreed to be Duran, but they will take appropriate security measures. And then what about that guy that Quark led onto the station who stole the symbiont that one time?
No.
Nobody brings it up.
No, he doesn't count.
Yeah.
He didn't have it long enough, so it's fine.
And then Dax also already met that guy, so...
we don't need to meet him again.
All gladly agree to participate, except for Quark, who is soon persuaded by some strategic lobe stroking.
Yep.
However, he is not told that he will be playing the role of a female host.
Oh no. The horror.
He's not going to like that. So Chief O'Brien gets Nog started with his 4-day test, which starts with a stress test, apparently, which is completely different from what Nog was studying. He's like, it wouldn't be much of a stress test if you could study for it.
How stressful would that be? Not at all.
So he gets going on that. Then the Guardian arrives on Deep Space Nine and sets up his Jantara rig, which appears to be a big flaming bowl of mud.
Yeah, some serious mud.
And then Kira shows up to embody the first host. The Guardian does some chanting, then uses his magic hands to suck some glowing ghost light out of Jadzia's tummy and put it into Kira's head.
It's good to know that they can do this also, in addition to like what we were told before, where they wander around and they check the levels of stuff in the water, and then that's what they do.
Yeah, this is a pretty impressive power, I have to say.
Right?
But this first host is Leela. Not Leela from Futurama.
No.
But
spelled differently and everything, so.
Yep. The Guardian does a quick test to make sure the Leela memories are out of Dax and into Kira, and then leaves them to chat. So we learned that Leela was one of the first female politicians or something. My Paramount Plus kept cutting out at this part, so on Trill. And that she's the one who developed Dax's distinctive hands behind the back stance to keep her male colleagues from making fun of her wild gesticulations.
This is one of those, like, why Han Solo got named Solo, where it's just like, I'm sure I'm glad they explained that thing.
It's like where his distinctive pants came from.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, great. And then this kind of sets up the premise that's like, this is why you want to talk to these guys, to get these great little nuggets like this. But, like, couldn't you have just remembered them before? It's, I'm not clear. Like, she never remembered before that whole thing about holding her hands behind her back so that the men wouldn't make fun of her.
I guess she just never thought about it before.
It just never came to mind. Okay. Yeah, I guess you only remember stuff like when, something prompts you to remember it.
Right.
So maybe it makes sense. I don't know.
Especially if you got 8 lives worth of memories or whatever to dig through.
True. Then we go through more hosts. Chief O'Brien is Tobin, who is a nervous guy who keeps biting his nails. Lita plays a gymnast host from whom it seems Jadzia got her passion for Klingon martial arts.
Or something.
Yeah, I don't know. Quark embodies a nice old granny type lady, much to Quark's annoyance, who interrupts is like, how much longer is this gonna take? This is weirding me out. Why can't O'Brien be the old lady? Bashir is Tarius, whose untimely demise left him with a sort of carpe diem type philosophy.
Yeah, he's like eating all this food, and Dax is like, Julian's watching his weight, and he's like, screw that. Tell him not to do that. That's stupid.
Yep. I wonder if like Dr. Bashir can taste the stuff he's eating and stuff too, or
It's a good question.
Because they're like, you're aware the whole time, and you can interrupt whenever you want. So, although apparently that's not quite true, because it seemed like that old lady had to give Quark permission to butt in and talk.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
Who's really in control of this body?
It does seem like Quark would have just been like, nope, backseat lady, I'm doing this. I'm talking now. But
yeah.
You missed the part where O'Brien, we find out that Tobin had the most original approach to a proof of Fermat's last theorem since Wiles over 300 years ago.
Oh, I can't believe I totally forgot to write that down. Yes. So as we discussed in a previous episode, Fermat's last theorem was proved during the run of Star Trek Deep Space Nine. And there was a previous episode of Star Trek The Next Generation where they had named it as it was still open problem.
Yep.
And so now, I guess just whoever, I think it was Captain Picard was talking about that in that episode.
Yeah, it's from the episode The Royale, and he says that there hasn't been a proof in over 800 years or whatever.
Right. So apparently he just was unaware of Andrew Wiles' proof, which we had a previous episode where I mentioned it had been, like, Andrew Wiles had just, like, announced his proof or something. I think by this point, I think it's been fully published and stuff. But, so, this is, I think Star Trek maybe, like, correcting their not being able to see the future.
I think Picard just had a personal issue with Wiles. Like, he didn't like him, so he ignores that.
Yep. Fun little math note in there. I guess Tobin was a mathematician or something.
Or something. Also, there's we passed it already, but where O'Brien like takes Noggin to the holosuite for the exams, he's carrying a pad, and the pad says "Go away" because it's a reuse of that prop from the earlier episode.
They couldn't even like reuse the story time pad or whatever.
Yeah, they couldn't reuse any of the other pads that have been in episodes that had to be the "Go away."
Yeah, that's funny. Yep, and so I guess also Tobin, like all mathematicians, is a nervous guy who bites his nails. But then it's time for Duran, whom they lock in a jail cell for a Hannibal Lecter-style meeting. And luckily, it's like, the guy, he's able to suck the Duran out of Jadzia, put it into Cisco, and then step out just in time to, like, put up the force field or whatever.
Right.
But Duran is not nice.
No, he's not.
Yeah, he taunts Jadzia for not being as impressive and accomplished as their other hosts. Then he does a little ruse where he pretends to be Cisco, so they'll let him out of the jail cell. Then he attacks Dax, but she's able to beat him into submission, being careful not to damage Cisco's body too badly, for which he is thankful.
Yeah, very thoughtful of her. So,
thank you for not breaking any of my bones.
It says that they had to refilm this scene, because the original way that Avery Brooks played it was too creepy. It says the visual effects supervisor says Brooks spoke in an almost inaudible whisper that literally sent shivers up your spine.
Nice.
But it just seems weird to me. Like, yes, we know Duran was a killer, but there was never an indication in the previous episode where he appeared that he's like a Hannibal Lecter, constantly super creepy murder man.
Yeah, no, he wasn't a serial killer. He murdered a guy who was trying to take away his symbiont. Like, it was a totally motivated personal murder.
Yeah. And
we never got the sense he was a psychopath, because I noted this because I thought it was really weird. Yeah. So in that episode he was portrayed as more as of a victim than like a villain. And then that episode ended with him and Jadzia having this kind of like peaceful reconciliation at last or whatever. But yeah, now apparently he's just Hannibal Lecter, so.
I mean, it did make for a fun scene. I'll give them that.
Yeah. That's true. Having like a psychopath killer personality is kind of fun. So as Nog continues his testing in the Hall of Suites, Rom paces around nervously, then shows Quark a Starfleet uniform he had made at Garrick's. Morn eyes the uniform with interest. There's lots of great Morn background acting. And there's one scene where like he's doing some kind of like wine tasting in the background.
Wow.
The whole time of the scene. He's just like sniffing this wine and then holding it up to the light and then tasting it.
I never noticed Morn, so.
I was just always like, what's Morn up to back there? Then Quark lets slip that Nog won't be needing that uniform. But quickly recovers and says, because they'll give him one when he gets to the academy.
Quark is so sneaky.
Right. It's like, good save, Quark. Good save. Then Sisko and Dax talk about the experience with Duran, and Sisko asks if the reason she put off doing the ceremony was because she was afraid of feeling unable to measure up to her previous hosts, like Duran said.
Yeah, Duran knew what buttons to hit, apparently, which is weird because he doesn't know anything about her.
Yeah, I mean, that is, well, maybe they had that meeting in the goo pools.
That's true.
In the caves, so I don't know. Maybe they had a chat then or something. But she admits that she does have some worries in that vein, especially after her experience being flunked out of the symbiont program by Curzon. And she wonders why Curzon didn't object to her re-entering the program after she initially washed out. And Sisko suggests that she should ask him when, it's his turn. But she's worried that she may not like the answer.
Mm.
But finally the time comes to meet the man himself, Curzon, embodied by Odo. How does that work? The writers apparently are not worried about it, so let's just not dwell on it. It's like, how's this guy with no brain do this? I don't know.
His brain's everywhere. It's fine. So,
like, apparently he's just taking their souls out of there and putting it in the body or something.
Yeah, or something, right? I don't know. It says to achieve Odo's new look after he embodies Curzon, makeup designer Michael Westmore got a photograph of actor Frank Owen Smith, who portrayed Curzon in Emissary, and digitally morphed it onto the Odo makeup.
Nice. But yeah, the Guardian puts the ghastly light into Odo, and amazingly Odo shapeshifts into the half Odo, half Curzon guy, Curzodo, who smiles warmly at Jadzia. Then we cut to the Siskos at home, the doorbell rings, and it's Curzodo! Happy to see his old buddy Ben. And then he does a little bit of like, maybe not appropriate for Jake talk.
Yeah, not so much with the appropriate.
It's like, you banged that Cassidy chick yet? Reminds me of that one lady. He's like, let's get out of here. And he reveals that somehow his changelingness caused a joining between Odo and Curzon, instead of just the Curzon personality taking over the Odo body.
I mean, obviously. Should have been expected.
Apparently the Guardian's fine with it. He's like, oh, okay, that's interesting. This Guardian has just like the most laid-back attitude.
He is very relaxed. He doesn't seem like the Guardian that we saw before, who was also somewhat laid back because he didn't care about, the people stuff happening. He was just interested in whether the symbiotes were happy. But I think this guy's just like having a time, being off-world,
right.
Because apparently they don't usually come off-world for this. He was like, yeah, we've been trying to get Dax back to the homeworld to do this for a long time. She wasn't coming, so they sent me.
Yeah, I think they said something about, like, those guys pretty much never leave those caves or something, so... Yeah, he's probably just, like, enjoying his vacation, and every once in a while they're like, sir, the host personality, like, blended with the guy and made, like, a halfway in-between version. He's like, I'm sure it's fine. Just keep going. I want to go back to my Dabo.
That's what I want, is some scenes partway through the episode where he's just, like, at the tables, having a good time.
That should be the B story, not the Nog Starfleet test story. Although that story, it does have a pretty fun payoff, so. But yeah, Ben and Curzodo head down to Quark's so that Curzodo can give Quark a scare. I guess just by kissing him. I don't know. He also changes out of his uniform into a colorful new suit.
Is that not how you scare people?
I don't know. He's like, I'm going to go give that little guy a scare. It's like, scare him by being nice to him. So I don't know. Like, because Quark has no clue what's going on. He's like, what the heck is... What? So yeah. Ben leaves Jadzia and Curzotto to talk, and then she tries to broach the issue of the initiate days, but Curzotto deflects with some Tongo.
Yeah, there's a Tongo hustling Ferengi here. Let's clean him out.
Yeah. While I was skimming back through the episode, I think I saw that Ferengi guy getting off the same transport the Guardian was on, so I was like, ooh, were they like cleverly planting that guy? Or was that a different Ferengi guy? I don't know. But while they play, Nog and Rom are bummed at Nog flunking his test. Quark is strangely supportive of Nog all of a sudden, which causes Rom to go into Fry Eyes mode.
You should have been like, hey, so you wanna write that hollow porno now?
Yeah. It's like, I'm just saying, hollow porno, that's where it's at. After getting ejected from Quarks, Jadzia and Curzotto go back to Odo's office for a drink of evidence liquor.
Yeah, just, don't you need this for evidence? Whatever.
Jadzia asks why Curzon let her back into the program, but he gives some wishy-washy, non-committal answers and basically says, well, don't worry about it, you became a host in the end anyway, so it all worked out.
Why does it matter?
Also, he reveals that he's decided to stay in Curzotto form and not to go back into Dax.
Yeah, because she's got the thing where... Because he tells her, I felt sorry for you. So, I let you back in or whatever. And she's like, well, okay, but that makes me think you don't respect me. And then when I get your memories back, I won't respect myself. He's like, funny you should mention that because now it won't be a problem.
And then apparently Odo is fine with this too, which is the hardest thing to believe for me in this episode.
Odo's having fun for the first time ever. I kind of buy it.
Oh, okay. He finally experiences what fun feels like. Dax and Sisko go talk to the Guardian, who's like, hey, if they want to stay joined, fine with me. Nothing I can do about it anyway.
I guess, the magic thing apparently doesn't work unless Odo willingly gives up the memories.
Right. It's like, is that never a problem? Like, do people never try to, keep the memories? But Jadzia seems resigned to letting the situation be, but Sisko lays down this speech that's basically like, look, I love Curzon, but dude's always been an asshole, and you need to stand up to him.
He's like, sometimes he would be an asshole, and I would call him out, and he would be upset, but he'd know that I was right, and that he was being an asshole, and so eventually he'd accept it.
Yep. Then Rom accosts Quark in the corridor and reveals he knows Quark hacked the test so that Nog would fail. But apparently, off-screen, he also told Sisko about it, so that problem is solved.
Yep. And Quark, once again, faces no penalties whatsoever.
Right. Except that Rom makes a very clear declaration that if Quark messes with Nog again, he will incur the wrath of Rom.
I will burn the bar to the ground, which Sisko might have an issue with that.
Right. Well, Rom won't care. You just don't want to... You wouldn't like him when he's upset.
Max Grodenchik apparently sees this as the moment that Rom's character turns. It's he says, this was a turning point for the character and myself. Rom stands up to his brother. He's standing up for his son. And then later on, he stands up for himself. And it was this episode was at the end of season 3. And I think it helped me begin to accept the possibility that the writers were trying to do something a little special with Rom. Huh. Maybe a little bit of, they like me. They really like me moment.
Nice.
By the way, the first take went very well. We didn't do another, but I was really hoping I could throw Armin against the wall again. Damn. Well, I didn't realize how much there was in that episode. At the end of it, I bring Nog to the bar, presenting him as a cadet. He says that he tried to hold Aaron's hand because he felt like Rom being such a proud dad would want to take him into the bar like this. And he says, because my own dad would hold my hand in a situation like that. And I always thought it was a very loving gesture, but Aaron hated it. I insisted. We both went to Armin to arbitrate, and of course Armin worked out a compromise.
Nice.
So if you watch that scene in a bit, it's Rom walks in, holding Nog's arm. With, I think both of his hands, if I remember right. It looks weird to me, but apparently it was the compromise that they were okay with.
I like that they went to Armin Shimmerman to resolve this, not the director.
No, Lord of the Ferengi is Armin, right. So he makes these decisions.
He's like he's the little like mob boss of the Ferengi characters. He's the shot caller.
Yep.
So Dax visits Kurzoto, who has just been having some changeling fun, but just a little bit ago. You didn't see it, so we didn't have to do any special effects.
Right.
Although they did some pretty fun special effects when he like transformed his face earlier and then transformed his clothes.
Yeah, it looked pretty good.
Yeah, that looked pretty seamless. So, she tells him she wants the Curzon back inside her, and also wants to know the real reason he let her back into the program. And then we get this kind of weird scene where he reveals that he flunked her out of the program because he was in love with her. And then he let her back in because he was so ashamed of what he'd done. And then he admits that he's still in love with her and doesn't want to rejoin with her because she doesn't want her to feel those feelings. And then she says that she does love him as part of herself in Dax, which is where he belongs, and she wants him back, and this seems to do the trick. So he nods, and I guess we just assume that he relinquishes Curzon back into her.
Since Odo's not Curzon forever.
Right. So then we get that scene where all gather to celebrate Nog passing his test. Ra makes him wear his uniform, even though he's not in Starfleet yet, which Sisko comments on. He's like, you're not in Starfleet yet. He's like, I know. Then O'Brien realizes that in a few years he may have to call Nog Sir.
Yeah. That's what you get for refusing to go to the academy and shit, O'Brien. Whose fault is that?
Yep. And then Nog goes to the bar and orders a root beer, which Quark finds horrifying.
First time root beer gets mentioned in the series.
Is this the first mention of root beer?
That's what it says.
I was thinking, have we talked about root beer before? We've talked about baseball, I guess.
Yep.
So then we end with Odo and Dax having a talk about, all that weirdness that happened. Odo apologizes for his behavior, and Dax says that Odo gave her the special gift of knowing what it's like to be a changeling. And then Odo replies that she gave him the special gift of enjoying eating and drinking and staying up all night, which did having Curzon make him suddenly have taste buds and the ability to get drunk?
Maybe it made him care about having taste buds for the first time, or I don't know.
Then Odo comments that Curzon must have been a remarkable man, and Dax replies with, yes, he is. And then Odo gets this look on his face like, whoa, man, you're blowing my mind. And then we cut to credits, the end.
A couple other interesting bits. Neither Renee Echevarria nor Ira Stephen Bear were overly happy with how Curzon came across in this episode.
I mean, yeah. But I mean, you wrote it.
Echevarria says, if I had it to do over again, I would be more careful about his character. He was almost always drinking or talking about drinking. And then Bear says, the way Curzon came across was by no means the way I saw the character. I saw him as kind of a bon vivant. Instead, he was like Shecky Curzon, a wacky fun guy.
Yeah, he's, just all the stuff with I don't know. It's just weird to me. Not just his behavior, all his drinking behavior and stuff, but his whole thing with Jadzia. It's like, ugh.
It's a little bit odd. I mean, apparently he was always falling in love with women. We knew that from Sisko before even this, so I was like, okay, I get that he Jadzia's cute. What are you? She's cool. What are you gonna do? But it was a little bit weird. Also, random fact: Curzon Odo orders Tranya when he goes to Quark's, and this is the drink served by Balok in the original series episode, The Corbomite Maneuver.
Oh,
yeah.
So just another one of those little original series detail picks.
Yeah, I guess that because Balok was from the First Federation, so I guess maybe trade with the First Federation and has opened up, and Tranya is popular.
Huh. Okay. One of my notes is it not possible for one person to play multiple hosts?
Yeah, I mean, why not, right? It's not like they're all at the same time.
Right. But I mean, I guess we gotta have all the characters be. This reminds me a lot of that Bashir, everybody's a part of Bashir's personality episode.
Yeah.
Where Sisko was his professionalism, and O'Brien was his fear
Right.
or
Yeah,
something like that.
I think it's fun when they get to, do a little crazy acting.
Sure. I mean, I think my favorite is still just seeing like Odo as Curzon.
Hmm.
Even if I didn't like just the whole way that turned out, but seeing like Rene Auberjonois' take on that character.
Yeah,
I
I
thought
thought he was pretty good.
Get to see Odo be like, do something different than, or see that actor do something different than we usually see.
Yeah, absolutely. He gets to have fun too.
And I like seeing him like, because he's always lived on through like Jadzia's and Cisco's stories before, so it's kind of fun seeing him just like in the flesh or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Under reception, we've got a couple of differing views on this episode.
Okay.
Tawny, one of the stars of Star Trek Lower Decks, who appears in person in the recent crossover episode between Lower Decks and Strange New Worlds, which I hadn't watched any Strange New Worlds, but I love Lower Decks, so I watched that episode, and it was pretty fun. I don't know that it has talked me into like watching Strange New Worlds, but whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, she's in here and she's like, I talk about this in interviews, I have talked about this in interviews before, but I really love the episode of Deep Space Nine about Dax where she's revisiting with all her previous hosts, but they take the form of the rest of the crew, taking the personality and form of them so she could interact and speak to them all. It's just such a nerdy theater kid type episode because everybody gets to play something else.
Yeah.
So she's a big fan.
Yeah, as far as acting, it's pretty fun. Like seeing,
Yeah, absolutely.
O'Brien's portrayal of Tobin, Quark is the old granny lady. All that stuff was really fun.
And then on the other end of the spectrum, Ira Bear comments that the episode is all over the place. The story doesn't begin until Act 3.
Yeah.
Before then, you don't know what it's about. Is it about Dax? Is it about Odo? Is it about Curzon? I dare anyone to figure it out until the show is halfway over.
That was something I was thinking when finally it got to that scene where, I guess where Odo says he's keeping, or Odo says he's staying. I'm like, okay, is this the like ultimate point of the episode? Or because yeah, like up to that point, it was kind of hard to nail down like what exactly is the point of the episode.
Yeah, I get that, and I understand what you and he are both saying, but for me, I don't mind the ride. I'm just like, no idea where this is going, but this is entertaining, so I'm okay with it.
I think it might have been fun if it was like, they just kind of like did longer little skits or whatever with each of the individual hosts. Instead of just like a little bit of each one building up to the whole Curzon thing. But
right, sure.
Like I would have been cool with that.
Yeah, it could have been interesting to stretch that out some and get more with each person, maybe going around the station.
A bunch of little stories that each have like their own little like beginning, middle, and end.
Like the Simpsons episode with all the stories.
Yeah, exactly. Just with all of the adventures of Jadzia and her various previous hosts.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. That could have been fun. He says the episode is filled with scenes that exist just for the hell of having the scenes. They don't all advance the story. We do a whole act of meeting these hosts one after another, but the fact that the story moves so fast and so many outrageous things are happening every 2 minutes, it works better than I thought it would when I was watching the dailies. It has all the idiosyncrasies and eccentricities of a Deep Space Nine episode, and Terry really does her best work when she's vulnerable, worried, and trying to wrestle with problems.
Mm-hmm. That's Ira Stephen Bear, you say?
Yeah. So that was one thing that actually stood out to me about is that Terry Farrell gets some good moments in this episode, but she runs up against what I guess is just like a Dax character issue at this point, where it brings me back to the Dax episode where she just refuses to do anything to help herself.
Right.
And then when Curzon takes when Odo and Curzon are going to stay together, she's just like, "Now I don't want to do anything about it," until Cisco has to talk her out of it. So I'm like, Dax's solution to problems is just to be like, "Nah.
Yeah.
Let it work out however it's going to work out. I don't want to get involved."
I did like her performance when she finally does stand up to Curzon, though.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, kind of overcoming her intimidation of him or whatever and speaking her mind. I thought she did that pretty well.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me also of the Cisco's kind of speech to her being like, you need to suck it up and stand up for yourself, kind of calls back to the prophecy episode, which Destiny or whatever that episode was called, where he was really psyched out about the prophecy and what his role was going to be. And then Dax came in and was like, why are you worried about this? You're a Starfleet officer. You need to suck it up and do what you want to do.
Yeah.
A little bit of a parallel there. I thought it was kind of neat.
It actually reminded me of when that the Trill Initiate shows up and she has to work with him and she's just like,
oh yeah,
she like has to call him out on some shit and he gets all upset about it.
True. I guess like Curzon was kind of in her when she did that also, so
that's
maybe
true.
She was like drawing on the Curzon-ness a little bit in that episode. Want to jump into the ratings?
Yeah, sure, we can do that.
How would you rate Facets?
I like the episode. Once again, I recognize some of the problems that people had with it, but I didn't feel as problematic about it. It's one of those, like I said in that in the Bashir episode that we mentioned actually, that I really like it when the everyone gets to play like something different and weird.
Yeah.
I didn't like that episode, but I like that aspect of it.
Sure.
And so this is one of those that I was thinking about. There's several episodes like this one, the one where like they start acting out that like mutiny or whatever. Yeah. So those kind of things where the actors just get to play around and be different and have fun. I like those things. And so I'm a fan of this episode. I'm going to give it a Commander.
Ooh, full Commander. So like fundamentally, I don't hate the episode. Like I understand the appeal of the premise, and I also like the, actors getting to play different roles and all that stuff. But the first of all, I just don't fully buy a lot of the Odo Curzon stuff, the Curzotto stuff. And then I have a hard time suspending my disbelief that Dax never knew about Curzon's feelings for her before this.
Yeah, that's a good point that I thought of during the episode where I was like, this is a thing that she's always wanted to know, and she has Curzon's memories.
Right.
She would have known by now.
I mean, maybe she knew and then she forgot when Curzon got pulled out of her, which if that's the case, that makes the whole episode pointless, but...
Right.
The whole Curzon being in love with Jadzia and then flunking her out of the program because of it is just a really unpleasant thing, in my opinion, for that character. So, and overall, I think there's just so much wonkiness throughout the episode. What are the mechanics of what's really going on? It's like this guy shows up who's basically just magic. So all that stuff kind of dips it below the line for me. So I'm going to put it at a full lieutenant.
We do have a random magic man. Can't deny it.
Right. And not to say that doesn't happen on Star Trek all the time, but it's just like the kind of Trill lore and stuff is like, it's not a one-off. This is like an ongoing thing in the episode. And so you're just all of a sudden introducing, like, the Guardians can just come and like suck the ghost of the previous host and put it in someone's brain or whatever. It's like, okay, it's a little far-fetched. And you can put it in Odo, who doesn't even have a brain. It's like, okay, I'll really try to go along with this, but
yeah, there's a lot of suspension of disbelief. I don't disagree.
You got to hang that disbelief real high. Like put it in a bear box and throw it up in a tree, because some weird stuff going on in this episode. And like this is even compared to like an episode where Rumpelstiltskin showed up. So
yeah, that
like the baseball player, the imaginary baseball player who materialized a baseball out of nowhere, and that baseball just stayed around. Every time I see that baseball, I'm like, but how is that baseball still real?
They were magical aliens.
Okay.
Come to, experiment or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Whatever. They were from another dimension or something. So anyway, any final stuff you want to dive into?
No, except that I guess we're about to hit the end of this season of Deep Space Nine, audience. So
Season 3 almost over.
Get ready for the season wrap up. Sure to be an exciting adventure as always.
Yep. There are always episodes that I have a lot of fun making, and then nobody ever seems to really care too much about them. But whatever.
Nah.
You can just skip that week if you want. I don't know. Okay, but I guess we can call it there. So yeah, that'll do it for us today. If you made it all the way this far, thank you for listening. As always, check out the description. You may find links to interesting things. I'm Fletcher, about to say goodbye as Data.
See ya.
And until next time, I mean, even if you're joining Starfleet, whenever you see the Nagus, you gotta remember to kiss the Nagus stick.
Drink some root beer, kiss the Nagus stick.
Right. I don't care how much root beer you drink. You gotta kiss the Nagus stick.
Yeah, I bet the Grand Nagus would like root beer. Don't let Quark be all down on it.
We have to franchise this root beer in the Gamma Quadrant.